Hey everyone, welcome to another video on 9th edition Warhammer 40K. As always, my name is Jay, and in this video I'm going to focus on coherency. It's actually one of the biggest changes to this edition from previous editions, is the focus on coherency. It's going to play a very interesting part, I find, in this edition, because in previous editions, if your units were out of coherency, they would just have to finish their next move in coherency to bring them back. In this edition, any model that's out of coherency dies. At the end of the turn, it's removed from play. And that's huge. So in this video, I'm just going to go over a few examples of some scenarios where you really got to be thinking about your formations, how you're putting your models on the table. When I say formations, I mean how you're going to be putting your models on the tabletop and how you're going to be moving them, and the importance, of course, of choosing the right model to remove, because if not, it's going to cause a chain reaction. You're going to lose a bunch more models and just give your opponent basically some free points and ease them. But Maze, yeah, so basically, let me go over the rules quickly with this edition. So, as I said, this edition, it's a different focus on coherency. The first thing is, let's talk about what is coherency in this edition. So on page 198 of the book, coherency. So basically, if it's a single model, it's always in coherency. If there are 2 to 5 models in the squad, they have to be within 2 inches horizontally of another model in their squad, or 5 inches vertically. That's the other thing. 5 inches vertically is really nice for the coherency rule, so you can have them like lined up way up high, which is awesome, but they have to be within coherency of at least another model in the squad. Things get a lot more complicated though when you have 6 or more models in your unit. And that's why I do think this edition is really going to be a game of spamming small units, because the larger units are going to have this potential problem and they're going to lose models unnecessarily. But, so let's talk about it. So when you have 6 plus models in a squad, you have to be in unit coherency with at least 2 other models. And this is huge in a few ways. Number one, you will not see straight gun lines anymore, because the individuals at the end would not be in coherency with 2 other individuals if the squad size is 6 or more individuals, 6 or 4 more models, right? They can't do it anymore because the individuals at the end would only be in coherency with another model, and they would be killed at the end of the phase. And a few people have suggested some other ways of putting up models. I'm going to show that in a moment. But as I said, that is huge. So, and that implies when you move and that's if you're in coherency during the assault phase. If you're in coherency, in the movement phase, you got to keep your models in coherency, and you got to be very smart about which models you're going to be removing at any given time. If you take wounds off a single model, you got to make sure that that model is not in the center of your squad, because that could have some horrific chain reactions later on if any of your models are caught outside of coherency, then they're just going to die. And so the next thing I want to talk about is what happens. And so the last part of each phase is it's called the morale phase, right? And during the morale phase, there's the unit coherency check. And so each player must now remove models, one at a time, from any of the units in their armies that are no longer in unit coherency, until only a single group of models from the unit remains in play and in unit coherency. Right? So that's huge. That's huge, because the models removed count as having been destroyed, but they never trigger any rules that are used when a model is destroyed. So they don't get to shoot if any extra stuff. Models removed because of this do not cause their unit to take another morale test. So that's huge. This is a huge change to Warhammer 40K in 9th edition, and I'm going to be showing just some examples of this information in a moment and going through it and showing you the importance and what happens if you're caught off guard. Let's get to some examples. Alright, so obviously for coherency, it depends on the number of models within a squad. So if there's one model, like this Patriarch, he's okay, because since he's only one model, he's in coherency with himself. So a single model unit isn't affected by coherency rules. Now, when a squad has between 2 and 5 models, like this squad of Acolytes, they are held to coherency rules, meaning they have to be within 2 inches of each other, but at least one other model. So, for example, if you wanted to do this formation here, everyone is within 2 inches of each other, you're okay, providing that one of them doesn't die. But at least with this type of formation, it's a pretty safe, it's a relatively safe strategy by taking this formation with the new rules, and we're going to go over in a moment why. But basically they have to be within 2 inches or 5 inches vertically, but within 2 inches of another model, and so this one works easily. Now, things get a little more complicated, though, when you try to do the old gun formation, the old gun line formation. As I was saying earlier, this new edition is going to favor blobs, or like the formations I was showing you earlier in that previous clip. This gun line strategy can be dangerous for a few reasons. The main reason is if the squad is to lose wounds, right? So let's say the squad has to lose a wound, you basically have to remove from the outsides. So you have to remove this individual or this individual. So in the new edition, if you're going to run a straight line for a squad of 5 or less, you have to make sure that the ones that are weak are on the outside of the line. The biggest problem is that if you removed this individual, right, that model, at the end of the turn, your squad will not be in coherency anymore because this guy and this guy are not within 2 inches of each other. And therefore, you have to remove one at a time until they're in coherency. So you'd start with this one or this one. The unit is still not in coherency, and so you have to remove this one. And then these two get to stay on the board because they're in coherency. So the biggest thing right now is if you were to remove from the center of the table, you would be forced to take additional models off the table and give your opponent just free dead models because they are removed from play, they're dead, and all that would be left are these two if you have them to remove from the middle. Same thing would have happened if you removed this individual in the first place, but only then this one would be dead. So coherency becomes even incredibly more important with multi-wound units like these Primaris Intercessors. So one of the mistakes that players are going to have to catch is keeping track of who has wounds off them. Because let's say one of these 3 inside models have lost a wound last turn or during the before you moved. If you accidentally then allow them to be in the center of the formation, if you're running a gun line like this, once again, you run the huge risk of losing a lot of models. So let's say, once again, this sergeant was the one you put a wound on last turn. You forget about it. All your opponent has to do is do one more wound and kill the sergeant. And then, once again, this model is also outside of coherency at the end of the turn and will be removed. You get a free, your opponent gets a free dead model because just making sure that you keep coherent models. Same thing, like if you accidentally remove the middle one, then all of a sudden you lose half of the squad, additional 2 models from the squad, seeing as they're out of coherency. So it will become incredibly important in this edition to keep track of who has lost wounds within the squad and make sure that they're always towards the outside of the formation. And that's why I really do feel that this edition is going to favor these kind of things where they're in circles or V patterns or Ws, just so that they're keeping relatively close in coherency. Now, once again, coherency is now 2 inches, but it's going to become incredibly important so that so if one person dies, the rest of the squad stays in coherency, and you can remove any individual from this pattern, right, a circle pattern, and it stays in coherency. So that's the important part, at least with 5 models. Furthermore, things get even more complicated when you try to run more than 5 model squads. Because the new rules are that if it has 6 or more models in the squad, basically every model has to be in coherency with at least 2 other models, not just 1, 2. So you see this formation of 10, so this is 8 Primaris Marines in a row. You couldn't run this formation. And the reason why you couldn't run this formation is the very first time, if you caught yourself running a straight line, unless they're in close proximity, you know what I mean, they have to be within 2 inches of another model. So, of 2 other models. So let's say you tried to run this line, a gun line for Primaris Marines. If you ever get caught with this at the end of the turn, your opponent's going to say, well, these two are not in coherency with two other models. This one's at one end, this one's at the other. So remove a model. All right, let's remove a model. Well, the unit is still not in coherency. This individual is now not in coherency because he lost this one. This individual is not in coherency with two other models. So you have to remove that model. Once again, the squad is not in coherency because this model is more than 2 inches away from him. So you have to remove this model. And now the squad is in coherency. So now you have 5 models, and then it goes back to the original rule of between 2 and 5 models. Each model has to be in coherency with one other model. So now it works. So as you can see, just by accidentally putting your guys in a straight line in the new edition, you just lose a whole bunch of models. Your opponent doesn't have to do anything. They will just die. So, in response to this, I've seen a few people then say, well, then maybe you should just bow tie. I call it bow tying. But create a pattern like this. Right? Create this pattern. The reason is these two, you go like that. A triangle at each end, right? So now you get this formation, right? And this formation would work initially. It keeps your guys in a gun line, and it keeps them all in coherency because every model is within coherency of 2 other models. You have triangles here and a line there. Perfect. The biggest problem with this particular formation of models, and it's so unstable, because if all your opponent has to do is kill any one of these guys, any one. If your opponent did 2 wounds to this squad, you can't remove another model without breaking the squad, and they're no longer in coherency. So if you kill one, if you move this one, right, it starts a chain reaction. So that one's dead. This one's not in coherency anymore. Dead. This one's not in coherency anymore. Dead. Down to 5 models, as you can see. Same thing on the other end. And now what if you remove somebody from the middle? It gets even worse.
Because there has to be one unit in the end in coherency, the whole right side of the squad would be removed as casualties.
So what I think you're going to see a lot of in these games, other than blobs of guys, is something like this, where you can remove pretty much any individual, and we remove this one, still in coherency. This one still not in coherency, so you remove this one instead, and so it becomes still more valuable. You want to remove from the ends. But at least it's less sensitive to losing like 1 or 2 models. You won't lose the whole squad or half the squad until it gets down to squad size of 5. The other thing that I'm predicting a lot of people are just going to see in these games is this. Giant blobs where they're all just tight-knit, which kind of is silly because the new rules, obviously, you can take advantage of them and be 2 inches apart, but it's so dangerous to be caught out of coherency now that you just die. So it's just, I feel like you're going to see a lot of these blobs in this new edition. The other thing is obviously people can be stacked vertically because it's 5 inches, as I mentioned. So I really do hope you enjoy this video on unit coherency. Please leave comments in the comment section down below what you think about unit coherency in 9th edition. I'm going to keep making these videos on some of the new rules and focusing in on things like the terrain and a few other parts of 9th edition, and just to really highlight the rule changes. So thank you very much for watching. Please like the video, comment in the comment section down below what you think about the new 9th edition rules, and subscribe to my channel if you already haven't done so. It really does help a lot. A huge thank you to all my Patreon subscribers. As you can see, their names go by my head. It's because of them that I keep making these videos. So stay tuned for more videos about 9th edition Warhammer 40K. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting.